you are. I'm waiting for your response. Let me know if you hear me loud and clear on this live. And if you're seeing me, clearly. Also, I would definitely encourage you to take note of the things that I'm going to say on this live. Take the message seriously and apply it to your life. If you never apply this knowledge to your life, these things that I'm saying will never make any sense to you. Okay? Let me just make sure to take my shoes off. Get grounded. Get connected. Grounding is so important. Let me know if you're hearing me clearly and seeing me also clearly. Okay? I want to make sure that everything is perfect. But most importantly, I want to give you the time to get your pen and your paper and to take note concerning this power that is in you. And it is so simple that most people overlook this power. And the reason for that, it is because most people forget what they're searching for on this planet. They forget that they're searching for themselves because they get trapped in conformity. So instead of them remembering, are coming to that place of remembrance, they're finding themselves trapped in conformity. And so, before I speak on the subject of imagination, I want to lay a foundation for you to walk on. And that foundation is based on energy, vibration, and frequency. In other words, we are vibratory beings. We could not have this conversation if there wasn't any form of vibration. The wind is blowing very heavy, so I'm just waiting for the wind to settle a little bit before I continue. Okay, these days have been very, 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 very windy. Okay. But do not allow the wind to be a distraction. It should remind you that it is an element. And how you have to bring all the elements together to create whatsoever you desire. Using your greatest power, which is the power of imagination. For example, if you grew up in the West and you've been raised to believe in secular Christianity that has been pointing to look outwardly, you would be looking on the outside instead of the inside to find a power that could give you every desire. Moreover, a lot of people go on their knees and pray to get assistance from this power that they believe exists outside of themselves. And when they do not get the results that they're looking for, they normally say, well, it was not God's desire for them to have or to be or to do the things that they had this desire first of all, for. But if you understand your oneness with God, when you have this burning desire, you would realize that this burning desire is a spiritual sensation, and that it is very important for you to utilize your imagination, because that is actually God in man. That is the power to form and to shape and to mold and to create and to even reshape and remold. So the big advantage that you have is that you can reshape and you can remold things. It means that you have the ability to rearrange your mind. The animals do not have that ability. The trees do not have that ability. That's why they do not have mind and speech. But you have the ability to shape things whichever way you want them to be. And then, if you don't like it, you could reshape it. You could remold it. You could do it another way. Well, I'm saying, if you've been living on this planet and you've been doing things a certain way, looking for a certain result, and after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you haven't gotten any result at all, that indicate to you that what you're doing is in alignment with the rest of nature. Because you see in nature, whatsoever you sow, that also shall you reap. You sow pumpkin, you can never reap watermelon if you sow pumpkin. If you sow pumpkin, you're going to reap pumpkin. And that's the life that is in the seed. So what is in your imagination? And you focus on that, which is in your imagination, knowing that's your God power. Within the law of gestation, because it takes cycle, which people think is time, when time is not real. That's why some people speak a language of defeat, because they think in terms of the past and the future, and not knowing that they're living in the now. They do not understand that eternity is you living in the eternal now. Eternity represents now. Everything is happening in the now. That's why when you use your imagination, you have to use your imagination in the now. You have $1 million now. You build $1 million mansion now. I'm just using those as examples. You're driving the Bugatti now. You're driving the Rolls Royce now. You're driving the Range Rover now. Whichever everything you desire in this world, that it feels natural to you, that you know that you can magnetize it, bring it to you. You can bring it into your reality without any doubt, without any fear. If there's any form of reasoning and doubt in your mind, it could mess up the conversation network that your subconscious mind is receiving. And your subconscious mind being that feminine side of yourself, whatsoever it's been penetrated with, whatsoever it received, it's going to give back to you. It is rather impartial. It has no prejudice. So whatever you sow in your subconscious mind, it's going to come back to you. So when people talk about God and they believe that God to be the creator, and they fail to realize that that creative power is within themselves, they live their life on this planet like a living dead. They live their life not knowing who they are. So they look on the outside for a savior, Lord, and a master. And I'm telling you, everything that I'm saying here describes colonialism. All the countries in this world have been colonized. The people have such a mindset, such a belief system. And it doesn't matter whether is it Islam or Christianity. It doesn't matter whether you say you're a Muslim or you say you're a Christian. All of them is based on an identity. And you didn't born with that identity. That identity was given to you through conformity. Because in your formative years, you were formatted through a program. That's what it means to be in the matrix. You trapped in the womb. You get caught in the three-dimensional realm and fail to realize that as you're about to go to sleep every night, you're breaking into the fourth, and you can go into the fifth and the sixth and the seventh and the eighth and the ninth. You could go behind your skull and experience your true self, which is your non-physical self. So my brother, my sisters, the reason why imagination is the only God, it is because for you to even think about God, you have to just imagine God. No one can show you God. If you tell someone, show me God, they can't show you God. If you tell someone, show me Jesus, show me Buddha, show me Allah, they can't show you no one. Which means it's imaginary. Common sense alone will teach you that it's imaginary. Which means that we're living in an imaginary world. Which means that this world is just a simulation, it's not real. It's basically a dream. You're having a dream. And while you're in the dream, you can dream in the dream. Because people go to bed and they fall asleep and they claim that they get dreams, okay? Which they do get dreams because I've had many experiences of having dreams, okay? But that is because there's a part of me that don't sleep. There's a part of me that can't die. There's a part of me that has no beginning and has no end, okay? That's the divine me, which is the divine self, which is the true essence. And you're having this human experience. So, my brother, my sisters, God is the innovative, creative, infinite, divine power that you are. That's your true essence. That's why anyone who becomes self-realized or self-actualized, they will tell you that you are God. Nevertheless, you're going to die like a man. And to keep the matrix going and to have the system going that has the people controlled and manipulated, have them under a spell. In order to have that going, they have to deem you as a crazy man. They have to deem you in some way to make you look like a bad person. When you know how to balance good and bad, you understand polarity, while on the other hand, they do not understand polarity. That's why they blame an outside enemy when the enemy is within. And they look for outside friend when the friend is within. Everything is within. That's why these people who look on the external things of life and they believe the Bible on an exoteric standpoint, okay? They see it as literal and they see it as secular history and they're looking outwardly. They will turn around and ask if you believe in God, asking you an esoteric question and don't even realize that they're asking you an esoteric question. That's how blind they are. So you trust in that which is within. They're not trusting that which is within, but they're asking you. Because they think in their mind that they're trusting in God when they're not really trusting the in God. They're trusting an old God that's been given to them. So they're trapped in idolatry. That's why they do not believe and know that the only God there is their imagination. Because if you have to use your imagination to imagine there's a God, or to imagine there's a Savior, to imagine there was a man 2,000 years ago, that means your imagination exists before these stories. And these stories, if they are written in a book and you're reading them from a book, okay, no book could be written and wasn't first a thought, it wasn't first an idea, it wasn't first imagine. So the book could never be the origin. It could never be the origin. So you have to go to the origin, which means you have to go to the root of things. And I'm saying that thoughts become things. I'm saying everything is based on energy, vibration, and frequency. So God have to be, I definitely have to be an information superhighway that is in you. And that is why I say it's imagination. Okay, everything in this world that we need to live, and we, especially the religious people, who turn around and say it's been given to them by God. It is things that they're beholding in their consciousness, in their awareness. You see, consciousness is definitely the only reality there is. It is consciousness, our awareness, that is speaking right now. But that consciousness, that awareness, that intelligence lives in a body. It occupies a body to operate and could be contacted physically in this three-dimensional world, because we are multi-dimensional beings. Okay, and so there's no other creative power in this world outside of imagination. If you know of any other creative power outside of imagination, please comment, let me know. Which other power that you know outside of imagination? In every nation on this planet, they use money as the medium of exchange. I'm talking about well organized, well civilized, developed nations, okay? Money is the medium of exchange. And money has to first be imagined. And for you to say that money was minted or created, then the creator have to be the creative power within you. And that creative power could only bring forth its manifestation through our meditation. What we think, what we meditate upon. You realize is that which we meditate upon that becomes our experience in this three-dimensional physical world. Whenever you realize that, you realize that you would have found the mint of consciousness. And then you start to meditate and the life you like to experience here. And series and series of events gonna take place in your life. And you're gonna see the things materialize right before your eyes. And then you start to realize, look, I am the one who have to save myself. I am the one who is responsible for myself. I am the one who is shaping and molding my own life based on my psyche. You start to realize your mind is what you use to shape and mold your experience and your life on this planet. So everything exists in your imagination. Your imagination is what I call your consciousness or your awareness. That's why there's power in awareness. The more you become aware of who you are, it's the more you become aware of your inner power, and you start to utilize that inner power. It's definitely gonna give you your every desire. You see, some people are so impatient and so unreasonable that they would doubt because they would want to achieve something that is beyond who they are. And it doesn't work like that. Because if you're going to imagine something that doesn't feel natural to you, it doesn't feel comfortable to you, your subconscious mind will receive that is same way how you're thinking. And it's confusion. So you get back confusion. Okay? The subconscious mind not gonna define it for you and say, well, I know. That's why the subconscious mind doesn't know a joke. So you have to be 100% specific. And for you to be 100% specific and definitely feel that you have already accomplished that which you choose to accomplish in this world. That feeling comes from a sense of surety. And that sense of surety comes from experience. And you cannot have experience if you are not a doer. You have to be a doer. You have to practice. And as you practice, you get better and better with what you do. And as you get the result will tell a story for themselves. Okay. So my brother, my sister, start to utilize your imagination like you never utilized your imagination before. For example, there are many people who live in outside of the country that they were born. So let's say you're born in Africa, you're born in the Caribbean, but now you're living in America, you're living in England, you're living in Canada, you're living in some part of the world. If you really think deeply, you could remember when you imagine yourself going there, or living there, or being there. You could remember many of the experiences that you had experienced, or you thought about it before. The things you would remember that you imagine yourself doing, and you find yourself doing it. The places you imagine yourself being, and now you realize that you travel to those places. Even the way you dress, you could imagine yourself just in a certain way, and you find yourself just in that way. You're presenting yourself that way. All the presidents and prime ministers in this world, they imagine themselves being the president, they imagine themselves being the prime minister, and they walk towards it. And all the different events that connect them to the different set of people and the different organizations and so on. All of that culminate into what I would call a series of events that took place to bring them into having that very experience that they see through their mind's eye, which is the eye of imagination. And the reason why I could speak so much on the power of imagination and that being God is based on my experience. You see, when you have an awakening experience, it's an awakened imagination. Imagination has awakened from the dream is the only how it could be. There's no other how. You can never have this human experience without you falling asleep into the dream, which means in the spiritual world, you die to your spiritual self to experience your physical self because you're both physical and spiritual. But while you're experiencing your physical self, if you remember your spiritual self and you tap into your spiritual self by going into the spiritual world, you start to accumulate more of your spiritual senses in such a way that you will realize, look, everything is basically spiritual. I am a spirit and I'm having a human experience. You will see money as being spiritual. You will see every income earning is basically based on your mindset. That's why last week I mentioned the secret of income. How thing comes into your life is what you put out that's coming back to you. It's like the ocean. The ocean is right here to prove what I am saying. The same tide that comes in and the same tide that goes out. And the ocean can never produce you a calm without it produce you a storm. And it can never produce you a storm unless it will also produce you a calm. That is why when you tap into the power of your imagination and you start to use your imagination daily, once you start to use your imagination daily and it becomes like a lifestyle, and you start to master your mind, you start to master your thoughts, you start to find yourself realizing that you're the Lord and Master of your destiny. Because you realize that thoughts create reality. And the thoughts are things. So everyone is experiencing their mindset, their own mindset. So those who are blaming politicians for the condition of the country, that is a reflection of their mentality. Those who are following the preachers and following their different religions, that is the state of their mentality. Those who are going to fight war for the presidents who sit back in their bunker while sipping wine and having fun and making sure they secure their family, and you're out there fighting and gambling your life because you sign a contract, because you have been given a will, a free will, and you sign a contract because you catch yourself or find yourself in survival mode and you believe there's such a thing as chasing a career. And so you follow the crowd and you conform. If you call yourself a soldier is a soldier. You sacrifice yourself. The presidents don't go to war. The prime ministers don't go to war. No, they have people, other people to do it. And the reason why they can do that is because they're on a higher level of frequency and vibration than them. Don't make no one fool you. It is the truth. The employer is on a certain level of vibration and frequency, and the employee is on a certain level of vibration and frequency. That's why sometimes the employer don't hot up his head with the employee because he expect their behavior or action. He know that they will produce that kind of action because he know where they are dwelling psychologically, where they are living psychologically. That's why when a person have a religious and a superstitious mentality, we know where you're living psychologically. When you see things from an angle of spirituality, because you understand your spiritual self, and you realize that spirituality is the key, because you're a spirit and you're having a human experience, and you're a spirit falsely, then you know, because I am invisible, and my real essence is invisible, why can't I learn to live from the invisible world to give me what I desire in this physical, three-dimensional physical world? That's what it means to understand the God in man is man's imagination. Because you have to imagine God. You have to imagine all the other things. So imagination is the key. Don't make nobody fool you. Imagination is greater than knowledge. Do you realize the school was first imagined? Do you realize the courthouse was first imagined? The judge and the jury, all of these people, they were first imagined, and they are working from a law that they are replicating of divine infinite laws that is in nature, and they can never give true justice and balance with that kind of system. It would always be rigged. It will always be there to fit the rich from the poor, because the rich and the poor tells of your mindset. It tells of your psyche. Don't make no one fool you. Your outer environment is a reflection of your inner environment. Your outer ecology is an expression of your inner ecology. We look around and we could see the expression of nature to all of humanity. And then we could see your expression also to all of humanity. Your mind is a garden. And the only one you could check is yourself. And the only one that you are afraid of is yourself. You're afraid of your lower self and you call your lower self the devil and fail to look in the mirror and see the devil. That's why religion is so prominent, because a religion keep you on a certain vibration and a certain level of frequency. But you wouldn't see it as stupidity. You wouldn't see it as one who control your mentality, control your psychology. I mean to say, I grew up in a colonial country, and most of the people have colonial mentality. And they would take that colonial mentality and call you stupid and crazy. Why? Because as a man thinketh, so is he. So, with all the wars and all of these things happening, it's a game. Everything you're seeing is the expression of what is going on in people's mind. That's why in the next live, I'm going to go more into that, what war is really all about. And how to use those times to benefit you the most. So while some people experience a dystopia, you're experiencing a utopia. Because you understand the power of your mind. So, my brother, my sisters, let this message encourage you to accept that you are powerful and influential being that is magnetic and electrical in nature. Yeah, just as electricity flows and it is accepted universally, so too you have a universal consciousness in you, and that's the real intelligence. And you have to operate that intelligence through using your imagination. You see, at a very young age, in your formative years, they take you to school and they program you. But school, it was for us to imagine. It was for us a thought, it was for us an idea. Universities, it was for us a thought, it was for us an idea, it was for us to imagine. Religion, it was for us to imagine. Politics, all these things, they were for us to imagine. Every war, it was for us to imagine. So I'm saying all of these things to bring you back to a place of remembrance. Is remember, they don't want you who you are. They don't want you to remember that you are for spirit, that you are for invisible. You're a thought evolved being. You look at the radio, you look at the television, you look at the internet, look at all the social media, and you would realize it's a system of channeling. Therefore, you can channel. And how are you going to channel? You have to use your mind. You have to use your imagination to channel. You have to use your imagination to travel. You have to use your imagination to do everything. They give you a passport if you're going to travel, but the passport has to first be imagined. They give you a plane, they give you a boat, but the boat and the plane have to first be imagined. Every system on this planet has to first be imagined. Imagination is number one. That's the creator in man. There's not a creator, there's not a God. That is God. Imagination is God. Master imagination, master life. Every great singer, every great entertainer, all multi-millionaire, all billionaire, they had to use their imagination. They had to see themselves being a millionaire. They have to see themselves being a multi-millionaire. They have to see themselves being a billionaire. It couldn't come into their reality. Don't make no one fool you. At some point in time, they had a desire to be great. They had a desire to expand. They had a desire to grow. They had a desire to live an important life on this planet, a meaningful life on this planet. They had a strong desire to contribute. So you have to use your imagination with feeling and emotion. Because emotion is energy in motion. But if you're easily distracted, then you might not concentrate and focus enough to use your imagination in a very effective way. Because if you try to force things, things are gonna happen. Do you use your imagination, things gonna come to you effortlessly. When I say effortlessly, without you trying to put too much effort into manifesting your reality. You see, feeling is the key. Once you have that feeling, once you have that desire, once you have that yearning, and you don't use those things to give you an identity. You see, most people try to get things to give them an identity. Most people try to get certain things to prove something to society. But when you realize that your real identity is actually your divinity, you use your divinity to express yourself on this planet. And the expression don't need no talking. Because action will all speak louder than words. Whatever your life reproduce and bring forth, you know that's the life that is within. Okay? So I really want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to read these comments. If someone say hi, I want to reach out back to you and say hi to you, Carmel Wine. Um, I want to encourage you to continue to support this work. Okay? And at the links that are down below, you find my books and so on. They will definitely help you to understand the power of your imagination. I speak a lot on imagination in my books. Okay? And as long as these things I'm saying they're making sense to you, it is only when you apply them that they will become sense. It is when you apply them that they will become wisdom. Because when you start to get certain results in your life, then you will realize that you're a master. Why do you think other people call themselves masters? The people who run in the world, they refer to themselves as masters. They give you a God outside of yourself so you wouldn't find your God self. But I'm saying when you discover your God self, you will discover the I that is in you. The I represents imagination. Whenever you experience an awakened imagination, you know imagination is key. You know that imagination is vital for any form of creativity, for any form of science and technology. It's imagination. Someone asks if I'm in Jamaica. No, I'm in the Caribbean, but not Jamaica. Hello to you, Tina. Okay. I'm like 4 hours away from Jamaica by plane. Okay, but I'm from the Caribbean. So let me thank each and every one of you who have tuned in. My encouragement to you is to put your imagination to the test. What I am saying here won't make any sense at all. There are a number of things that I've used my imagination before I saw the projection or the manifestation of it in this three-dimensional world. And I'm smiling every day. Because every day is a manifestation day. Every day is a creative day. Every day you're doing the work of God. When you use your innovative, creative self, knowing that God, that is God in action. Knowing that God in man is man's imagination, man's awareness of being. How else could you say God unless you're imagining that power? How else could you say Christ, whatever name you want to use, unless you're imagining that power or that entity. So consciousness is the only reality. That's why I'm saying to you, to know yourself is to understand how reality works, is to understand the secret of creation, and to know that you can be a conscious and a deliberate creator. Okay, so my brother, my sisters, start to use your imagination morning, noon, and night. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and imagine yourself being or doing or having the things that you desire in this world. And then at night, before you go to bed, imagine yourself being and doing and having that which you so desire in this world. And then in the morning, when you wake up, be very grateful and always live in an attitude of gratitude. And I can guarantee you that you'll all be attracting things in your life. And you'll realize that God in man is definitely man's imagination. That is God. Okay, there's no other creator or any other creative power. The power is within you. So let me thank each and every one of you for tuning in. And if what I'm saying is very helpful to you, make sure to put your imagination to work and send me your testimonial. Okay. So I really, really want to thank you all very much for tuning in. It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. I'll definitely connect with you in another live. And make sure to check out my shorts and my other long form videos. I was very busy, okay, because as you know, I just have I just welcome a baby boy into this world about say a month and I say about 3 weeks, a month to almost a month and 3 weeks to almost 2 months ago. Okay, so I was, I'm very busy and so on. So I hadn't gotten the chance to post as much I would like to post in my long form videos, but I've been posting shorts, and soon because I start to accumulate some videos. Okay, soon I'll be posting videos for you daily. Okay, to help you to grow and to expand by learning how to use your imagination and embracing your imagination and finding out for yourself that imagination is the creative power in man. That is God in action. Okay, when you use your imagination. Someone said, quick question, do you think we should avoid Neville Goddard's walk? Sorry, I'm late. You see, Neville Goddard's walk have a lot of truth in it, along with some lies in it too. Like, so for example, when you speak about Abdullah, okay, he's not telling the full truth, okay, but the things that he's speaking about with using your imagination, these things are true. But the thing about Neville, when you as a melanated person become aware and awakened, is that you see that they are playing a game to make it always look like they are ahead of you or a step ahead of you. So they're giving you information that have been recycled, information that have been repackaged. And they're offering you these information that have been repackaged as if it is something new, as if they have a certain intelligence that others do not have. So it gives a sign of some form of superiority when there are none. Also, when you look more deeply, you see that Neville Goddard's work is basically exposing himself and his lineage, his bloodline, where he come from, in terms of having this human experience. Because yes, there's only one universal consciousness, there's only one universal awareness. But when you look at the animals, you can see there's only There are many different species of animals, but they are all called animals. And we are all having this human experience, and they turn around and tell you we are one race, and why we human race when we are no race at all. So it means if there's a lot of polarity, there have to be people on this planet who have a soul, and there are those who do not have any soul. So those who would awake and those who will continue to stay asleep. So what I would say to you is that Neville was 100% truthful, but there have to be a reason why he was not 100% truthful. Okay, you see, when you're born in this world and you never join anything like any fraternity or anything like that, you straight. The only thing I've ever was a part of was religion, secular Christianity. That's pointing me to look outwardly, and it was done out of my own curiosity, my yearning to know who I am. I saw it. I went early on a journey whereby I asked myself, "Who am I? Why am I here?" and so on. Okay, so I'm not gonna say that there's nothing you're not gonna learn from Neville Goddard's work. Everybody's work here is it's like if you're eating fish, you're gonna meet the bone, but you're not gonna eat the bone. You're gonna continue eating the meat and you leave the bone. It's the same thing. Okay, but to get caught up with like say Neville and idolize Neville and putting Neville on a petty stool up there and getting yourself attached to people, charisma and so on. It's the energy and the spirit you're attaching yourself to. That's why I'm saying to you, believe in yourself. Do things based on your experience. And you will never have experience if you don't learn to practice to use your imagination. Because you've been using your imagination all along, but you was doing it unconsciously. But now I'm saying that now you know you use your imagination consciously, and when you use your imagination consciously, and you get certain result that you know for sure that you use your imagination, then you have a different conversation. That's why experience is the greatest teacher. Someone says someone says 100%. Yeah, this is 100% the truth. Someone say read the book first. I don't know which book they're speaking about that you must read first, but reading books will help to exercise your mind. It helps to exercise your imagination because what is written in book comes from the imagination. That's why for you to trap yourself to any religion is do you understand not understanding the power of your imagination. You're making void your imagination when you get trapped in religion. When you give your ex to some politician, the ex represents your Christ energy. That's why they say Christmas is called Christmas and they call it Xmas. Your Christ power that which is behind a mask. You're holding to the mask and giving your Christ consciousness for leadership outside of yourself when you're supposed to be leading and directing yourself. Somebody said 2 questions. Do you have a book that covers all of this? Yeah, I have a lot of books. I have Spiritual Recipe for Better Living. I have Your Mood is Your Fortune. I have Meditate to Eradicate Poverty. I have How to Turn Water into Wine. I have How to Open the Floodgates of Abundance. I have Can't Be Proven Wrong by Any Christian. Where I use the law of reproduction that every seed, every species must and will all reproduce after its own kind. That's why when you start to use your imagination, okay, and you start to get the interpretation in your life, and you realize that the creator is in you, when you realize that the power has all along been inside of you, you start to see the world for what it is. You see everything was forced. Imagine, for example, they call America a superpower, they call Russia a superpower. Every country they have nuclear capabilities, they call them a superpower. Well, everything that this nuclear power entails come from the mind. Force a thought, force an idea, force imagine. So if I captivate your mind and capture your mind, and I influence how you think, I control your entire life from birth to death. That's why they make sure they give you a board paper. I'm not saying you shouldn't have board paper, but understand why they give you a board paper and why they give you a death certificate. How could a man get a death certificate? How could he? What sense does that make? Money sense is the only sense it make. Business sense. So your mind is a business. That's why they don't want you to know the power of your imagination, which is the power of God in you. So the person has even have books that cover all this. Yes, I have more than 10 books. The internet have journals, all things that you can, journal your life. Gratitude journals. Because gratitude is very, very important. The person says it and is SATs necessary. What is SATs? I'm not sure. I simply use directed imagination any time of the day. You could use your imagination any time of the day, but I have to add a but to that. At night, just before you fall asleep, when you get into that drowsy, sleepy state, it's one of the most powerful times when you're changing dimension, when you're going into the imaginary world itself. So, for example, this is just a illusion. This world out here is an illusion. But when you go into the world of the invisible, which is the world of imagination, you go into the source. So everything is connected to the source. And you are the source. So when you call on a God or some Lord or some Savior outside of yourself, you're denying the source. You're going to a fake source. Because you're going on the outside. What you're doing, you're putting the cat before the horse. Look, that which is within is without. But that which is within is always first. Everything in this world is created twice. First within. That's why you have to start within. So if you don't start from within and you start from outside, it don't work like that. You're trying to work from outside in when you're supposed to work from inside out. That's why the physical act of sex that brings us here. Some people only seeing it from the outside in, whereby you penetrating in. But when you want to see the real penetration from a psychological and a spiritual standpoint, you can realize that you can have a desire to bring certain children into this world. You could bring a genius into this world. You could have desire to bring a genius into this world. And break the course. Break our generational course. Okay? I see it's about 6 minutes before hour. When it's an hour, definitely gonna quit. Okay? So you can use your imagination anytime. But the most effective time is in the night and in the first thing in the morning too is good. Embrace the drowsy, sleepy state. Also, I would encourage people to use their imagination between sleep and wake. You know, someday you wake up in to go to the bathroom. You wanna pee or something like that. You pee and find something to imagine as you're about to fall asleep. Find something to think about. You don't have to force it or anything like that. You just focus on that thing. You just think about it and focus on it. If you could feel what it would be like for you to have it, or to be it, or to do it, it would definitely help. Because your subconscious mind is wide open around that time. And most of the time when you wake up in the night to pee, sometimes after 2 or after 3 in the morning, those are the wishing hours. Most people asleep. Subconscious mind wide open. Your wish is a command to your genie, which is your invisible self, your God self, your imagination. Okay. Also, if you want, to get more and more information without any disturbance and so on, you want to listen to videos that I've done, you could go on my Patreon, check out my Patreon. You could become a member of this channel. Membership is available. The power that you have in you is being explained to you in so simple, in such a simple way that it's hard for people to really believe in their own self. Do you realize to believe God is to believe yourself, to trust God is to trust yourself? And the self of you is basically your imagination. If you do not have no imagination, anything going on, you're asleep, you're in debt, you lack awareness, you lack consciousness of this realm. You're dead to this realm. But I'm saying you could be alive to the physical and the non-physical realm. Understand that you and God are one. One. There's only one power. There's only one creative power in this entire world. Don't make nobody fool you. There's only one creative power. There are many different prints of money. There are many different mints. But there's still one power. There are many complexions of people's skin. But there's still one power. That's why the blood, or the pigment in the blood is one. Is red. One color. It represents one power. The wind that blow here right now is the same wind that blow any part of the world. The sun that shines here is the sun that shines in any part of the world. The power it takes for plant to grow is the same power it takes plant to grow any part of the world. The same soil it takes for things to grow is the same soil every part of the world. Every part of the world we depend on food, clothing, and shelter. Because while we are having a human experience. And everything that is in every part of the world, it was first imagined. It all came from the mind. Someone states a state akin to sleep. Yes, I see great. It's subtle but huge difference. Yeah, there's a big difference when you trust your imagination than when you trust politicians and preachers and your school teachers and your community to influence you. There's a big difference. When you start to learn to trust your imagination, you can't be trusting your imagination while you're trusting an outside entity. You have to make a decision. It's either you are your own savior or some savior gonna save you. Someone say God saves. God is real as truths and loves. God saves. Your God shows them all sees and all. Whenever you speak about God and you're speaking about some entity outside of yourself, you're totally lost. But when you realize the power within you, that's why anybody could speak about God and speak about Jesus and speak about Lord and Master and Savior. It's how the people interpret it. That's why if a man running a mega church and he's saying Jesus and Lord and God and Savior, and then you see he turn around and he living life as a multi-millionaire, billionaire, he living life like a god, and he knew better. You can't blame him because he's doing a work, and people are interpreting what he says how they want to interpret it. Because, for example, I'm saying something different than what they are saying, and you have a choice whether you're gonna choose what I'm saying or you're gonna choose what the preacher says. A person have a choice whether they're gonna listen to Crocodile or TD Jakes, or they're gonna listen to somebody like me who's saying that God is your imagination, that everything exists in consciousness. It's oh, well, let me just read these last comments here. And definitely gonna come to end, and I'm gonna go on my next live. I'm gonna be on another live. Go check me out on my Black Mad Guru channel. Okay, where I'm gonna be doing some of these same kind of work. Where I'll be discussing, you know, what kind of energy behind wars and so on, and what kind of and how to be economically competent, and how to open your spiritual eyes and your spiritual ears when these things are happening. How many people could be easily distracted, you know what I mean? But when you're focused in the storm, you see the calm. In life, you all see hope. Doesn't matter how dark the tunnel seems, you all see the light at the end. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Someone say, the help that I seek is at the end of my own arm. Yeah. All help cometh from your invisible self. So I can say all help comes from God, and the religious person will interpret it to being all help comes from some entity from the sky, or some sky daddy, or some entity on the outside. Like Kanye West say, Jesus is king, and everybody have their own interpretation. All the religious people have their own interpretation. But you realize imagination is king. It's common sense. Imagination is king. Ideas is what run this world. You have an Amazon because a man work on an idea. Yeah, so much people was willing to take the inoculation in 2020 and all of these vaccines because somebody had an idea. So many people in Hollywood who call themselves entertainers and movie stars were manipulated by a man named Jeffrey something. I can't remember his full name. Okay? Because why? Hollywood was an idea. Movies was an idea. The motion picture camera, it was an idea. Everything is an idea. Everything comes from the mind. Everything has to first be taught. It have to be a thought. It have to be an idea. It have to first be imagined. Nobody could convince me of any power outside of imagination. You can't tell me about God when I have to imagine God. You can't tell me about no Jesus and no Savior when I have to imagine Jesus. I have to imagine the Savior. So you're talking about that imaginary man. The only imaginary man I know is my imagination. That's the man that don't sleep. That's the man that dreams. Doesn't it strike you that everything in this world has to first be imagined? So, if there's a creator, that creator expresses itself in me as my imagination. If there's a healer, the healer expresses himself in me as my imagination. And my imagination, you break it down, you can go to energy, vibration, and frequency still. That's why this wall, you can have wars and have trading with countries all around the world without a communication link. There have to be a communication link that binds us together for us to have trade and commerce, much less to have wars and these things. So my brother and my sister, I'm saying everything is in you. Okay? Believe in yourself, love yourself, embrace yourself. Okay, don't just tie yourself to people to people because they're charismatic And because they refer to them as great and they call them mystics, they call them all different things. Any man who's a true mystic will point you to believe in yourself. And I consider myself to be a true mystic. That's why I'm telling you, you have to learn to believe in yourself. You have to learn to love yourself. You have to find the monad, the place of consciousness within you. You have to experience the Sophia, the knowledge of self. Then you would know that there's truly the demiurge. You know that truly they are the archons who feasting off your negative energy, your energy of limitation, doubt and guilt and shame and fear. And who runs that kind of energy on this planet? The religious system. The ones that lead you blindly. They want you to be blind, deaf, dumb. That's all they want to have you. Okay? DDD. And most people suffering from that DDD. The deaf and the dumb. So my brother and my sisters, take note of what I'm saying to you concerning the power of imagination. Right now they're using AI. And AI had to first be imagined. And AI is going to come to a place whereby it is actually controlling or influencing the people's mind in so much that they do not learn to think anymore for themselves. People finding, you realize, right, in the time of the big pandemic, the scamdemic, the people who understood how the mind really works, those are the people who benefit from staying at home and utilizing their time wisely. Instead of those who was using their time and exchanging their time for money and chasing after money, those are the ones who fall victim, to the strategy, to the scheme. But those of us who are aware, was using our imagination, and we was meditating more, was practicing mindful breathing and so on more, was being out in nature more, we was reading more, exercising our mind more. So while people was laughing in my conscience saying the government giving away free money, they were saying inflation coming for you guys. The prices of things in the supermarket was going to go up and they didn't know. No, these are the same people who are crying while we are smiling. So my brother, my sisters, you want to smile every day of your life? Trust your imagination, man. Put your imagination to work. This is not no new age or whatever they try to tell you. This is true. Just look at nature and you know everything I'm saying is true. So this have nothing to do with devil or anyone. This is not any new knowledge. Wise men from since the dawn of time have always known these things. Mystics and sages and so on. Seers, they have always known these things. Okay? And that is why this state of mind or this state of consciousness can never be deleted from this planet. We always be here. The self-aware and self-actualized, the ones who are self-realized, the ones who are more enlightened, those who are on another level of energy, vibration, and frequency, and they are bringing you to that level of energy and vibration and frequency by sharing information with you, telling you to look within, to know who you are, and giving you encouragement, like the ones I'm giving you now, telling you to trust your imagination. But imagination is God in man. That's the intelligence. Okay? So, as I said, I was going to just go for an hour. It's an hour and 8 minutes, and I really want to thank you all. I'm just going to read these rest comments, and I definitely want to close. I want to go on another live and spend another hour, okay, over there on my Black Man Guru YouTube channel, okay? Someone said the help that I seek is at the end of my own arm, yeah? Okay, and someone say, what part of jam are you in? Love your content and books. This person, I mean to say what part of Jamaica I'm in. I'm not from Jamaica. Okay, I'm from the Caribbean island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Formerly, what you call Hiruna. Hiruna is the real name. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the colonial name. Okay, that's the colonial name, but the real name is Hiruna, land of the blessed. Okay, land of the blessed. Yeah, no problem. Most people more familiar with people from Jamaica. And our accent sound very close to the Jamaican accent. Okay, but it's basically one bloodline, when it comes to the mystical side of us. Okay, it is one bloodline. That's why we speak the same language. You see, when Marcus Garvey was telling people to go back to Africa, he was sending them back to a place in mind, a place in consciousness where there's so much riches, where there's so many joy, peace, and happiness. Though those who are stealing the joy and peace of the people in Africa is because they're stealing the minerals and the valuable things that they have in their country. And the reason why they can do that because the people not beholding the value that is within themselves. They're looking at the outside for value. They're looking at the outside for some Lord or some God or some Savior. You realize the Bible has been interpreted in a certain way to keep the people in Africa dotish and stupid, to keep them dumb. So the West could live off the ignorance of the people in Africa. France and all these places could live off the ignorance of the people of Africa. Yeah. So that's what's been going on. But we see what is happening in the world right now. And it's only those who know how to use their imagination will be able to make it. Okay. So my brother, my sister, I really want to thank you all very much for tuning in. Okay. Someone said, so racist is my imagination. Yeah, that taking place in your imagination because this human experience can't be a race. So there's no fucking such a thing as a human race. Get that in your skull. Nobody could fool me to tell me, oh, there's only one human race. Bullshit. It's bullshit. I am not a human. I'm not a human. You see, once you think you're human, then you chop yourself to a race. Okay? But there's no race. You lie. There's only an experience. They you turn the experience to something else. It's the experience. That's why when you talk about human experience, right, the word humus refer to the earth, the dirt. And if you understand the element at earth, wind, water, and fire, that's who you are. And what operates the earth, wind, water, and fire is spirit. And that spirit is energy. And it can transmute. So you could take water and you could transmute water into ice. Ain't? And the sun is what evaporates and condensate and then the rainfall and so on, right? It's the same thing that happening right in my mind. That's why I've been teaching that the sun parallel the human imagination. And the human imagination parallel the sun. And that's one thing that Neville could have never come to teach the world because he would be exposing his own, who gives the people a S-O-N, when a S-O-N could never exist unless therefore be the S-U-N. Because it's all about keeping the sun people blind from the true light that is within themselves. So if you tell me that there's sun people and ice people, I'll say yes. But don't give me no race. Okay? If you understand the polarity. So, this race thing is a joke. Sometimes I could go down the rabbit hole too if I feel like go down the rabbit hole. Okay, because I come from a place whereby people minds have been colonized. And because the mind have been colonized, sometimes I have to go down the race road to get them to listen to certain things. You know what I mean? But when it come down to the whole nitty-gritty, what we call the nitty-gritty of it, okay, there's no such a thing as any race. When it's just an experience. experience can never be categorized as a race. Just see a human experience, okay? So I'm not human. I am God in flesh. That's who I am. So if I am God, God have to have a nemesis. God have to have an opposite if there's a lot of polarity. Well, all you have to do look at those who want to keep people blind and dumb and want to control others and who want to take other people what belongs to other people and who believe they're big and bad and them the biggest baddest bully. All you have to do is just look at those kind of things and you will see because everything is naked, nothing is hidden. Okay, so I really want to come to because I really want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to encourage you to follow this channel, support my work. The links are down below. Check out my books and everything that I have to offer, all the goods and all the services. I'm definitely asking for you to support my work. So, with that being said, my brother, my sister, I just want to say peace. Love you all. I'll catch you on the another live, which I'm going to do on my next channel, the Black Margot channel. So, you can tune in there and let us continue what we've started. Thank you very much.